Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Prepper Podcast. And today I'm joined by a member of our prepping community on YouTube and on Discord, Zebra Prep. How you doing, Zebra?
Oh, good. Thank you. How are you, Mike?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for doing this. It's always great to get other people's perspectives. And people have requested to stop interviewing YouTubers and start interviewing normal people. So you braved the camera, unlike a lot of people. So I appreciate that. Well, we'll start with the obvious one, which I ask everyone, is because it's a stigma word. Are you a prepper?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're happy to say so? Yeah?
I think so, yeah. There definitely is stigma around it. I know when I've told like close friends, close family, they do kind of think you're crazy. But then it's funny because they go, oh, I know where I'm coming. And I'm like, yeah, but who's crazy when it all happens and you're knocking on my door? So there is that stigma that you're crazy. But I think it is, the more people I speak to about it, the more they kind of go, oh, actually, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you say, oh, I'm doing it for financial reasons. They go, oh, yeah, actually, that's not a bad idea. So I think making progress.
Yeah, you've got to kind of explain to him along that road of not like, there's a meteor coming in 10 years, or it's the zombies are rising up, and you've got to go down the road of COVID, shops were closed. You want to do that again? And just be like reasonable with it. And money saving's a massive one if you buy in bulk and stuff like that. So next question is a new one that I'm going to throw into everyone. So you're my guinea pig. It's got all philosophical. What does prepping mean to you? Somebody says I'm prepping, what's your instant thoughts?
I would probably assume that they're a prepper from saying that.
Yeah.
That to me would indicate that they've got some kind of supplies if shit hit the fan. Don't know if I can say shit. Can I say shit?
Yeah, of course, yeah. You saw me swear. We have Brian on. Come on. We have Brian on this channel.
I'm really hard to do SHTF, but then I was like, I'm going to get my letters mixed up. So, yeah, I would kind of expect them to have something as a backup if shit hit the fan. Food, water, some kind of, way to heat water, way to heat food.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah. So, I mean, because it might sound like a stupid question, but if I talk to a bushcrafter, they might say they're prepping, but they're prepping by skills, by survival, by practicing. So that's the only reason I'm trying to gauge what other people think with that. So how long have you been prepping?
Oh, I'm a newbie, only about a year.
A year. That's still a year more than a lot of people, so that's good. And the question is, why? What started you? Everyone knows, like, for me, it was the Carrington event and solar flares, and Brian, it's all about the power grid. What's the reason you're prepping?
I think there's so many different things that can go wrong. But I think, if you've got food, if you've got water, I think the basic supplies can get you through a lot.
Yeah.
So I try not to focus on like one thing going wrong. I just try to make sure that I'd be able to survive a bit longer if anything went wrong, if that makes sense.
No, I get you, but is there nothing that's kicked that off? Is it like the news, the way it's been, or like, world events, or some people because of COVID,
I want to say, yeah. And I look back and I go, how have I not seen these red flags through COVID? But
beforehand?
Yeah, I was living with my mum.
You were like the rest of us middle-aged people on TikTok.
Yeah, it wasn't my problem. And then I moved out and I became an adult. And honestly, it was watching like back to back The Walking Dead, that kind of thing. And I just went, oh my God, if anything did happen, I'm really unprepared. So I kind of thought, okay, how can I go about this so that I don't look crazy?
That's always the challenge.
So, my plan was to just do a get home bag and leave it there. Did not leave it there. Obviously, we're having this discussion. But yeah, it was kind of just watching TV, reading things, listening to audiobooks and going, if the power went off, I'm I don't even have spare candles. I don't have a torch. I'm relying on my phone. So
yeah, it's got, and do you feel much more comfortable now? It's not something that spread fear in you. If anything, it's relieved that, has it?
no, yeah, it's crazy actually, because I have struggled a lot with mental health in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would have been quite easy to go down that route of, oh my God, you know, I can never leave the house because that's where my stuff is. I can never go on holiday, and look into every video that says, you know,
World War III update.
we've had it, yeah. But completely lost my train of thought. What was I saying? What was your question?
That it's not created fear by doing this.
Yeah, no, sorry. It's not created fear. If anything, it's done the complete opposite. And I am a lot calmer knowing, okay, if the power goes out for 2 days, I'm good. If it goes out for a week, I'm okay. So
yeah, it's, I mean, which is great, which is what everyone should feel like. And I feel like generationally, a couple of generations ago, that was just the norm, to have candles in, to expect if power goes out, we'll be fine. And, you know, and we've kind of lost touch with that a lot. So you're slightly different from other preppers. You don't mind me saying, I'm sure.
No, not at all.
Do you want to explain to us why zebra prep?
Yeah. So do you know what? I'm gonna mess up the actual story behind the zebra. But the zebra is kind of just an awareness symbol for quite rare or unknown or hard to diagnose medical conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of to do with, if you were in the middle of the high street and you heard hoofbeats, you'd assume it was a horse, but you kind of need to look behind the obvious things and think, okay, maybe it's a zebra.
Yeah.
So that's the awareness symbol for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is EDS for short. Lots of different types, lots of different problems that it can cause.
Mm-hmm.
I always say I'm actually very lucky with how I struggle, because I know there are a lot of people that have it much, much worse. But yeah, it adds a completely different dimension to prepping, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, I was looking through some of the symptoms and stuff, and like you said, the range is endless, and people have all sorts with it. But I did see that wounds can take a longer time to heal with people with EDS, and joint dislocations and early onset arthritis. And the reason I pulled them up is they are things you're going to have to directly prep for. So how's it affected the way you prep into comparison with the way I might prep, for example?
Yeah. So, I mean, even simple things like on Discord today, obviously there were talks about how to store water and stuff like that. And I have to be very mindful that I can only currently lift so much, because my shoulder is very prone to dislocation. My thumb is. I've had problems with my elbow, which now has arthritis in it. So I'm quite limited in terms of that. Right. So where you could, you know, walk around with, I don't know, 20, 30 litres, 5 is probably realistically my maximum if I don't want to injure myself further. Also things like bugging out. So you could go and you could just go and put a backpack on and, you know, walk like you did with your challenge for miles and miles and miles. That's, you know, not really an option for me at all.
Backpacks on the floor and you're going to be like this. Floppy arms.
Yeah. I think that's why my biggest fear is kind of an EMP. If we say the word fear, that will be my thing, because my only way of getting out of where I am now is my car. So that's kind of the biggest concern for me.
I mean, I think luckily, if you had to level them off, I think that's on a low down scale compared to what else could happen. So you're kind of okay there. But if it is something that's a fear, again, that's what you've got to aim for, right? To try and think, how do I prep for that? Which I think you've took the first steps anyway by joining a community, starting to get to know people, and maybe some people in your area eventually. So what's your household at the moment? Just yourself, or is there...
Me and 2 cats.
You and 2 cats. That's it.
That's it.
So what's your, I mean, that has to come into consideration. This is something a lot of people I interview always, like, they'll have family or they'll have a brother that lives nearby, stuff like that. What's your plan for that? Have you got anyone close by? Because at the end of the day, if you have to bug in, you still have to sleep, right?
Yeah, no, it's a challenge. And I think that's one of the reasons I joined the community and I wanted to get to know people, because I do kind of see myself as a lone wolf right now. It's not where I want to be, but there's nothing.
Not by choice.
Yeah. I do have family, but they're not on my doorstep, so I would need the car. I do have friends more locally, who I'm sure will be knocking on my door. So yeah, lone wolf, but not really by choice.
No, but something you're working towards then. Have you, how's the discussions gone? I'd love to know with the friends. Have you just turned around and said, by the way, guys, I'm a prepper now?
No, so I think it's quite funny actually, because I'd kind of said to one of my friends, oh, I'm going to do a get home bag. Everyone should have one, you know, trying to really normalize it. And then I'd kind of said, you know, you need certain tools in it to be able to do your stuff. And anyway, she repeated to someone that I had a machete. And I was like, hang on a minute. No. That's not what we said. But from that, everyone kind of went, oh, that's it. She's prepping now. She's prepping. Still don't have one, by the way, just to put it out there.
I do.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think people know now. I have said to one of them, don't come knocking on my door. They're still like, I'm going to come knocking on your door. I'm like, okay,
I mean, this was
might not let you in.
This was a big subject on our fireside that we've just done. And it's going to be a follow-on episode of that on this Sunday, depending on when this gets uploaded. But that's a big thing, because I've said similar sort of things to my friends, like, yeah, you're on your own, mate. You're not coming to my house. I've got me. But how do you deal with that when it's on your doorstep in that situation? Could you turn them away?
See, this is it, is I had this big plan, and I think I mentioned it in the community a couple of weeks ago, that I was going to kind of talk to everyone in a group and say, and, you know, bring the storm that just happened in, you know, Northern Ireland, and how people went without power for so long and they couldn't get, you know, they were only taking cash, but the cash machines weren't working, and kind of put it in a scenario and go, what would you do if that was happening to you, in the hope that kind of open their eyes a little bit, and then they won't be knocking on my door. Because the thing is as well, my friends have got children. I've not got food for children. Not a big fan of children. They're very loud. Yeah.
Just furry ones.
Yeah, exactly. They're just chill. Like, she's just chilling. But yeah, so having children, I know, would make it near enough impossible to turn them away.
Yeah.
But I'm like, at the same time, I'm limited on space. I can't prep for kids that I don't have. You know, I'm too busy prepping cat food and cat litter and all that. So.
Yeah, pets have to be a big consideration. I did a whole podcast on just pets, because things like cat litter and food takes up a lot of space. So it's got to have a big consideration. So I mentioned with the EDS, let's go back to that for a quick second, that wounds take a long time to heal. I'm not sure if that means closing up, or it just means, like, if you're bruised, bruises last for longer, like anemic and stuff like that. But has that got to come into account with your medical prepping?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely wise with EDS to take a lot more care in general if you injure yourself, because it is going to take longer to heal, whether that is, you know, a cut or a bruise. And another thing, we tend to bruise quite easily. So everything just looks kind of worse than it is sometimes. I say that, but I mean, I can have my shoulder hanging out of its socket and I'll be like, I'm good, I'm fine, give me 5 minutes. And everyone's like, oh my God. But yeah, I mean, like when I could end up with this huge bruise on my arm and you'd be like, oh, I bet that hurt. And I'd be like, no, couldn't tell you how I did it.
Yeah.
And it'll take ages to go away. But yeah, with wounds, I've had surgeries on my elbow and they take a lot longer to heal. Obviously, in a shit hit the fan situation, there's going to be more. So I don't want to say germs, but if people aren't, waste disposal,
hygiene's going to be out the window.
Yeah, there's a lot that the chance of it becoming infected is a lot higher in that situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the UK, we're very limited. We can't just pick up antibiotics for fun and store them because that'd be absolutely fab. But I would say I've probably got a higher than average amount of kind of antiseptic wipes, antiseptic creams.
Yeah.
Regularly, like extra bandages to make sure it's getting changed regularly, it's clean, it's, stuff like that.
As much precautionary to stop that infection before it starts, so you don't have to try and go and rob the local chemist. If you, we're not going to ask for your address or anything, but what's your living situation as in community? I mean, people know I'm urban. I'm in a terrace. I'm working on getting the hell out of here. What's your situation?
I don't even know which word to describe it. I mean, you know roughly where I am. How would you describe it?
Well, I mean, like literally, like neighbors and stuff like that.
Oh, like I'm on a street full of houses.
Yeah,
but it's a quiet area.
It's a quiet area. It's more semi-rural.
Yeah. That's what I'm looking for, I think.
Yeah. It's worth asking because obviously it all comes into considerations, because if you're urban, if you're in a terrace house right in the middle of the city and you're going to have looting and raging gangs going everywhere, bug out's got to be the option, right?
Yeah, no, I think I'm pretty, touch wood, it's a pretty quiet, small, chilled out area.
Yeah, well, and hopefully they can come together into time. Like you kind of, for friends' sake and for local people's sake, you kind of want a mini thing to happen. Nothing dangerous, no one die, but a week without power might wake a few people up. Do you know what I mean? Although if COVID didn't, I don't know what will.
Yeah, well, it didn't wake me up, did it? But I'm here now.
So what's your prepping focus now? Are you prepping? Is there something in the back of your mind that's like, oh, I really need to prep for this. This is what could happen.
Not really. I know one of my friends is really concerned about the huge chunk of rock coming down in our direction. And I'm just like, there's absolutely nothing I can do about that for like, another 7 years. Don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And
we'll be able to predict more or less where it's going to hit. So if it happens to be going to land on your chimney, then we'll know in a year in advance and we can get you moved out, Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I do watch a lot of Scottish Prepper stuff, and I am, aware through that of how, fragile the grid is. So, that's a concern.
I tried to bring that up with people the other day that weren't preppers, and I just got looked at like a lunatic. People just think it's this solid thing that's going to last forever. It's unreal how much in the sand some people's heads are.
Oh, I know. So far.
Right. I'm going to do something we cannot do on the left side of things. I'm going to assume your gender. Shocking. I know. Everyone's turned off. So a female prepper, it's not like it's, a rare thing, but if I look at the demographics purely on my YouTube, the majority is men over 40, over 50-year-old that do this. Usually they've got a missus that supports them or stands next to them rolling their eyes like mine does. But either way, it's usually the men leading the charge on this. Why do you think that is? Do you think why? I mean, you've obviously got friends and stuff who dismiss this.
Yeah, I mean, I actually said to someone in the Discord the other day. I don't know whether it's just because men are more likely to admit it. They're more likely to be open about it, you know, like the survivalist kind of thing. Like, you know, if a guy starts dressing up in camo and going fishing, no one blinks an eye. If a woman does it, they're like, oh my God. So I don't know whether it's just in a way a bit similar to that, in that people maybe expect it more of men than they do of women. Men are more open to admit it than women are. I'm not quite sure, to be honest. Maybe it's a kind of stems from a male wanting to protect his family, and then
Potentially.
the women listen.
I've always kind of explained it to people as it's almost like a control thing, because we can't control what's happening with our government, etc. So we try and control the area around us. We control our sphere of influence. I don't like flying. I'm not a big fan of flying because I can't control the plane, but I don't mind driving, even though technically it's more dangerous. So it could be a control thing with prepping. So I don't know if that kind of factors into that. All those men are controlling that. So that's pretty much what I'm saying, right? So it's not a good thing to say, is it? But yeah, it's interesting though. It's interesting to think maybe it is about 50-50. They're just keeping it on the quiet. Or they don't class it as prepping.
Yeah, they could just class it as
good housewife.
Yeah, but there's an overlap with like homesteading and just jarring and canning and that kind of thing. And I think if a woman does that, it's probably seen as like, oh, she's just dealing with the food. It's probably not thought of as prepping. So yeah, possibly.
Whereas if my friends came in and I had an apron on and I was making 50 jars of jam, they'll have questions. So
yeah.
Right. Worst prepping mistake. I know you've only been doing it a year. But you must have made a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all do.
Just trying to think of the worst one.
The list is so long.
There wasn't that many. I'd say probably if you're going to invest in something of a fair amount of money, for example, a power station, do a lot of research before you did it. And I thought I'd done enough research, and you know, I did go with a reputable, there we go, brand. But it didn't work out, and I had been warned against it. And I was like, no, it's a really good deal. I'm going to do it. It's going to be great. And it wasn't. So I ended up then going through a faff, returning it, and then ended up spending more money the next month to get something by a different brand. So yeah, that was kind of a mistake. I'd say if you're gonna spend a chunk of money, make sure you really researched the best options beforehand.
I mean, yeah, and I'd reiterate that even on a smaller scale. If you're going to buy a knife for crafting, if you're going to buy a multi-tool, something like that, then put a lot of research into it, because you're not going to use it that much right now. But when it comes a time that you're going to need it, you don't want to then find out it's not fit for purpose. Yeah, so definitely test everything, do research, do as much as you can. What's your best piece of kit at the moment? What's your you look at and you think, I'm ready because I've got that?
Probably my EcoFlow.
Yeah.
But you know, we all know that Brian's EcoFlows didn't stop the roof tiles, so you'd never know, do you? You never know.
No, I mean, he's got enough EcoFlows to stack in his roof and block all the light and rain anyway. But
yeah.
This is a question that everyone goes, oh. What do you think gives you an edge over somebody who maybe lives down the road who's just got a pantry full of food? What gives you an edge for survival?
Oh, yeah, that's one of them questions, isn't it? I think let's assume that they're in a similar position to me, but they have a load of food and they're kind of a lone wolf too. I think being in the community on Discord, talking to other people, that kind of stuff. I really feel like knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And through being in there, like I learned so many different things, not just about food, like, you know, about all different aspects of things that might go wrong, have gone wrong in the past that I wasn't aware of. So, yeah, might be a poor answer, but...
No, it's good. Knowledge is definitely power. And obviously part of that community, as it grows and we put together a communication plan, it's going to be give you an edge over a lot of people. So yeah, it's a great answer. And last one, what's next?
Ooh.
What's the goals? What do you want to strive towards? You know, nuclear bunker.
Yeah, literally. Win the lottery, and bunker, loads of little lodge cabins for everyone in the community to come and crash in, and like solar panel off grid, that kind of thing. But I mean, that's unrealistic. I'm just trying to build up how long I can survive by a couple of days at a time.
Yeah. And it's got to be not just survival, but it's got to be long term. Like, how do you sustain that afterwards? Are you looking at any skills?
Yeah, so I have a very long list of skills I'm looking at.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm looking at, which kind of ties into disability, is like the use of essential oils for stuff. And, you know, because I won't be able to just bob down to the pharmacy and get my normal medication. So I'm kind of looking at that. But then I've also been looking at kind of doing archery or something along those lines. Again, more difficult to navigate with joints that dislocate, but
I imagine with especially if it's a normal archery and you've got to draw, because you've got quite a...
Yeah, I mean, I made the mistake of doing it on holiday in Tunisia or Egypt. And I really messed myself up doing it. And I was like, I'm never doing archery again. But I mean, people do amazing things. They come up with adaptations, and there might be something that I'm just really unaware of. So
yeah, I mean, if you went down the crossbow route, they've got the adder that's an easy to, but even that's full extension. So yeah, you'd have to, lots of considerations there. It must be difficult that way. What about any growing food, anything like that? Have you got the garden space, green fingers?
No, I've got quite a limited garden space. I am thinking about putting some planters down the side of like my car park space at the back, just throwing a couple of bits. Better to have something than to have nothing.
If nothing else, I mean, I always say to people, like, if you've not got much space and you can grow a little bit, don't think of it as that's going to be my food supply, because you're not going to live off 3 potatoes and 6 carrots for a month.
Yeah.
But think of it as the knowledge. You've nursed that, it's grown, it's edible, it's fine. Now you've got to think in the future, maybe I've got to do that on a bigger scale.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's a good practice. Well, that's all the questions I have. So unless there's anything you'd like to add while you have an audience?
No, I don't think so. Just like if anybody wants to know anything more, I've kind of been toying with posting videos and starting a channel and just talking about, you know, prepping with disabilities in more detail. And yeah, so if anyone wants to see that, let us know, and we'll try and make it happen.
And there's a lot of female prepper like on YouTube that are always like specialist in canning or specialist in kitchen stuff or things like that. It'd be nice to see a prepper channel that was just a prepper channel by a female. So there you go, get it started, and then we'll interview you again and plug the channel. Everyone wins.
Good plan. Love it.
If you have any questions for me or for Zebra, feel free to pop them in the comments. I'm sure she'll keep an eye on the video as well, or join us both over on the Discord. The links will be in the description. Thanks very much for joining me, Zebra. And yeah, would you like to say goodbye to the millions of viewers?
Goodbye to the millions of viewers.
And from me, thanks very much. Don't forget, like, subscribe, leave a comment, all that wonderful stuff. And I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.